Hey guys, this is Andrew with rockclass101.com, and in this week's ukulele lesson, Matt's going to be teaching you how to play Yellow Submarine. So this has to be one of the most fun Beatles tunes, and I got to give big props to Matt because he took this great song and he made it very beginner friendly. So this is going to be a great one, I'd say, for the beginner to the seasoned beginner player. It's just a super fun chord melody to get under your fingertips. Now, there is one tricky element about it, and that's that it has to be played with a swung rhythmic fill. That swung rhythmic fill gives it a playful vibe. Now, if you're new to understanding the difference between playing with a straight fill versus a swung fill, check out this lesson. I'll also link it in the description box below. Now let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the lesson itself. So in this video, Matt's going to be teaching you how to play the entire tune, but if you want to get the tabs to print off and follow along with, that's going to be available at this link, or you can go to this site, rockclass101.com, and do a search for Yellow Submarine. Now also on that page will be the interactive on-screen tab viewer. So this is a really cool feature where you can hit play, you can watch the tab scroll across in real time, you can highlight sections to loop them, slow it down to any speed you want. Just a great asset in learning this song that much easier. Alright guys, so I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Matt to teach you how to play this, and then I'll see you at the end of the video.
Hi, my name's Matt Dahlberg, and today we're going to do a solo arrangement of The Yellow Submarine by the Beatles. Let's go ahead and kick it right off with our pickup bar. To play this, it's very simple. You're just going to play 2 on the A string. You can use your index finger. And then 3 on the A string with the middle finger. Now we go into melody A, and this is going to start with measure 1. We're going to play the 5 on the A string with the pinky. And the reason we're using our pinky here is because we're going to have 2 filler D chords after this. To play this, just take your index finger and bar it across the 2nd fret while your pinky stays where it's at. A little trick is if you struggle with this bar, take your middle finger and stack it over that index finger to help push it down. One more tip is make sure you're not in the middle of the frets, but getting right up next to that fret wire. That can help make the connection much easier. You'll notice this has a strum marker, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our index finger and we're going to strum down twice. Then we're going to play 2 on the A. To do that, just take your pinky finger off, pluck that, then play 2 on the G, and then 2 on the A again. And that is the first measure. It should sound something like this in time. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Going on to measure 2 now, we're going to play the 3rd fret on the E string. To do this, use your middle finger. And then we're going to play a G chord, and to do this you're going to take that index finger and you're going to bar it across the 2nd fret of the C, E, and A. So we just came from that D, right? So all that you have to do is slide that index so that the G string becomes open, keep the bar on, and then have that middle finger there on the 3rd fret of the E string. We're going to strum that twice down. Then we're going to play 2 on the A, which is already there, twice. So in time, measure 2 should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now, so that you can hear these 2 measures together, I'm going to play measures 1 and 2, but I'm also going to throw in that pickup bar just so that you can hear it. Just for reference, that pickup bar will be 4 and within my count in. So it'll sound something like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and... Going right on into measure 3 here, we just take our left hand off. We're going to play open on the A string, open on the G string, open on the E string. And then we're going to strum all open for this C6 chord. Then we're going to play open on the E string. And then we're going to play 2 on the A string. It doesn't really matter what finger you use. I like to use my middle finger here though. So measure 3 in time should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Going into measure 4 now, we're going to play open on the A, Then we're going to play a D chord. This D chord is a little bit different than the first one that we played, and the way we're going to do this is take our index finger and we're going to bar it across the G, C, and E strings on the 2nd fret, and then come off for the A string to be open. This is a really tough chord. If you've never played this before, this can be a challenge, but the trick is to use that little divot on your finger to place the E string in so that you can get that A string to come open. If you look how I'm doing it just there. Again, get right up next to the fret wire, and we're going to strum that twice down. If this is too hard for you, it's totally fine to play this with 3 fingers, stacking your index, middle, and ring fingers together, and play it that way. Both work, but the single finger bar is definitely more efficient for the arrangement. And then after we've played that twice, we're going to play 2 on the A. I like to collapse that bar, play the 2, and then take the middle finger and add the 3rd fret on the A string. So measure 4 in time should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And so that you can hear it, here is measures 3 and 4 together. It should be something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now at this point, you'll notice there is a repeat marker. So we're going to go back to measure 1 here, and then we're going to play 1, 2, 3, and then instead of going to 4 again, well, we go on to measure 5 after our 3rd repeat. Oof, that's kind of confusing, right? Well, this song has lots of repetition to it, which means we're going to play measures 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to do that a 2nd time and a 3rd time before going on to measure 5 for the 4th time. So let's hear what that sounds like. So I'm going to start at the beginning of the song, and I'm going to play those 3 repeats, which means I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then on the 4th time, we'll go on to measure 5, and we'll talk about that when we get there. So it should sound something like this, starting with the pickup bar. 1 and 2 and 3 and. Repeat. Repeat again. One more repeat. Now, instead of going to measure 4 again for the 4th time, we now go on to measure 5, which gives us our 2nd ending. And it's not that complicated. We're going to play our open A. Then we're going to play that same D chord we played on measure 4, barring across or using the 3 fingers, whichever more comfortable. And now we're going to start strumming. So now we're going to list things with strum patterns here, because this B section that we're heading into is going to be all strummed. So the strum pattern on measure 5 looks something like this, which is going to be, you play the open A, then you're going to go down, down, up, down, up. And to do this strum, I like to use my index finger going down and up. For more information on strumming, be sure to check out the links down below. But that's going to be kicking off this sort of B section as we go through. So now I'm going to play that last run through. So I'm going to start on measure 1, but we're going to pretend it's the 4th run through so that you can hear what that last one sounds like going into measure 5. Should be something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. From here, we go on into melody B. So that you can hear it though, I'm going to play all of melody A with those repeats and that last ending. It should sound something like this. I'll go just a little bit faster. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And from here, we go on to melody B. Now, melody B, as I mentioned before, is mostly strummed. In fact, we're only going to pick 2 notes in all of melody B. To start, we're going to play this G5 chord. To do this, it's very simple. We're going to play a G chord as we did before with that bar, and then we're going to add our pinky finger on the 5th fret of the A string. And that's all there is to it, just adding that extra note. And we're going to strum that down. And we're going to strum it down again, and one more time. Then we're going to play 5 on the A, and I like to use my thumb here. And then I'm going to play 7 on the A. I'm going to slide my pinky up. And that finishes measure 6 to start B. Should sound something like this in time. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now this is a tricky little transition because from that 7, we need to jump all the way down to a D chord. And to be honest, I think this is the hardest part of the whole song. So what you want to do is you want to make sure when you're up here on the 7 with the pinky, you're thinking of that D, that same one that we played earlier on measure 4, and get your index finger down to the 2nd fret, barring across the G, C, and E strings. And once you're there, it's really straightforward because you're just going to play down, up, down, up, down. And then you're going to chunk or mute. It doesn't matter, whichever one you like the sound more, as long as the sound is not the chord playing. So to mute, what you can do is just take your left hand and you touch the strings instead of fret them, strum down. That's the easier way to do it. You'll notice I like to do that. Also, if you want to do a chunk, which you can find out a link how to do this technique down below, that's also an option. So measure 7 on its own is not hard to play, but going into it from 6 can be a little bit difficult. Let's go ahead and hear what 7 sounds like though in time. Should be something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And so that you can hear it, here is measures 6 and 7 together. Should be something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Going on to measure 8 now. Kind of cool because if you can play measure 7, you certainly can play measure 8 because they are exactly the same. It's going to be down, up, down, up, down on the D chord, followed by a muted or chunk down. And that sounds something like this, measure 8 in time. 2 and 3 and 4 and... No problems there. And then we go on to measure 9. I think this is probably the second hardest part of the song. What you're going to do for this is play a G chord the same way you did at the beginning of the song, or towards the beginning, where you bar across the 2nd fret of the C, E, and A, and you add that middle finger here on the 3rd fret of the E string. But this time you're going to raise the pressure with your index finger off so that the A string is muted. Now, here's the trick. You don't just have to raise the pressure off the A string, you can also raise it off the E too, as long as that C string remains fretted. It does not matter because the middle finger is here on the E string, right? So if you're muting this string with this, it doesn't matter as long as this one's fretted correctly. So we want to practice getting comfortable with the fret here and then lightly touching to mute there. And that sounds something like this when you do it correctly. That A string muted. And we're just going to go down, up, down, up, down on that chord, really straightforward. And then we're going to finish with one more down where we compress that finger all the way across for our full G chord. So measure 9 in time should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And here's measures 8 and 9 together. Should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And at this point, another repeat marker, a lot of repeats in the song. We go back to measure 6 and we play 6, 7, 8 again. And then we go on to measure 10 instead. So let's go ahead and hear what this sounds like before that repeat. Starting at measure 6, playing 6, 7, 8, 9, repeat back to 6, 7, 8, and then we'll talk about 10. Should be something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now it goes on to measure 10. And when you go to measure 10, it's actually exactly the same to start as measure 9. It starts with the same muted G that we played before with a down, up, down, up, down. And then the very last two notes of measure 10 are very simple. You're just going to play 2 on the A, which you collapse that bar. And then you play 3 on the A, which you can use your middle finger there. And that 2-note stretch is the same as the pickup bar of the song. And that's because the next section we go to is going to be the same as melody A. But before we get there, let's go and hear what all of melody B sounds like. And I'll give you a little trick that I like to do with it too. So here's 6, 7, 8, 9, 6, 7, 8, 10 for all of melody B. Should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now, the trick I mentioned just a moment ago is when I'm playing the D chord right after the 5, 7, so the transition between 6 and 7, this down to that, I like to use my thumb to play that 5 and that 7, and then I like to thumb strum the first D, just because my finger's already there, and then I go back to the index. So that's something that you could try if it makes it a little easier. Feel free to use the index too if that's more comfortable. It's just about making it approachable for you. But from here we go on to melody C, and it's pretty exciting because this isn't new. Melody C measures 11 through 14 are exactly the same as measures 1 through 4. They are identical in every single way. So if you played through that, you know it should sound something like this. Here's 11 through 14 in time. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now, when we go on to 15, measure 15 is exactly the same as measure 1. So it's just like how it repeated in the first time. So 15 in time, identical to measure 1, should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... But now melody C gets a little bit different here on measure 16. To start measure 16, we're going to play the 3 on the E string. And then we're going to do this little triplet run. Now, where this correlates to the original recording is the band begins to play, and then you've got all the brass instruments playing. And that's kind of what we emulate here, only on our ukuleles. So after we play the 3 on the E, we're going to play 2 on the C, which we use our index finger. And then we're going to play 0 on the E. And then I like to use the middle finger here on 2 of the E. So measure 16 in time sounds something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And then we go on to measure 17. It's going to play 3 on the E, which we can use our ring finger here. Then 2 on the A with our middle finger. 1 on the A with our index. 2 on the A with our middle. And then ring finger here on 3rd fret of the E string. So that first couple lines just looks like this. And then it's going to play 2, 0, 2 again, just like it did at the end of 16. So this sounds something like this in time so far, measure 17. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And then we go on to measure 18. We're going to play 3 on the E string, and then 2 on the E string, using my ring and middle fingers for that. Open on the E, and then 3 on the E with the ring. And then I'm going to play 2 on the C, and I like to use my index finger here just to set up what's coming next. So measure 18 sounds something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And 17 and 18 should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And so that you can hear it now, because that is the end of melody C, all of melody C should sound something like this. Starting with 11, going all the way through measure 18, should be something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And now from here, we go on to melody B again, actually. It goes back to what we're already comfortable with. And it's exactly the same as melody B. In fact, measures 19 through 22 are exactly the same as measures 6 through 9, and they repeat, and it doesn't change until that second ending. So let's go ahead and hear that. I'm going to play 19, 20, 21, 22, repeat 19, 20, 21, which you'll notice is exactly the same as 6 through 9 with that repeat. It's not till the second ending on 23 that we get different. So melody B should sound something like this, starting at measure 19. 2 and 3 and 4 and repeat. Now we go to the second ending, which is the very end of the song here on measure 23. And to play this, really straightforward. It's a new chord. It's this high G. We're going to take our index. We're going to move it all the way to bar across the 7th fret of the G, C, E, and A strings. Add the pinky here on 10 of the A string and strum all the way through. Down, up, down, up, down. And that's all there is to it. You'll notice this is the same as the D chord we've been playing before, just up higher now. So measure 23 in time should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And so that you can hear it, here is the entirety of the last B section starting at measure 19. Should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And there you have it. There is the Yellow Submarine by the Beatles. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. My name's Matt Dahlberg, and it's been an absolute joy working on this song with you guys, and I'll see you guys for the next tutorial here on Rock Class 101. Thanks so much.
All right, guys, so this week's ukulele lesson was a ton of fun. This might just be the most fun Beatles tune, although, I don't know, maybe this one on birthday might be equally as fun. But I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to link every Beatles lesson that we've done in the description box below. So if you want to learn another Beatles tune, go ahead and check out those links down below. Now, I do want to wrap up this video with a friendly reminder that if you wanted to get the tabs for this tune to print, keep for your records, that was available at this link. Or you can go to the site, rockclass101.com, and do a search for Yellow Submarine. Now, also on that page was the really cool interactive on-screen tab viewer, so you can literally hit play. You can watch that tab scroll across in real time. You can loop sections, slow it down. You can do all that fun jazz. So guys, again, I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.